Well, I think we're ready to go. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 20th meeting of the Town Board. We have our regular meeting, a couple, actually 3 public hearings and a workshop. So please join me while we pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, may I have a motion to accept the minutes of May 6th?
I make a motion?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and so the first item on the agenda is the public comment on resolutions or any matter of town business. So if you would like to join us at the podium and just state your name and your address, we'd be happy to hear your comments on either, as I said, the resolutions or any matter of town business. Okay, so just interested observers tonight. So we'll close that part of the meeting. And we do have, as I said, 3 public hearings on the agenda. And so I'll ask the town clerk to go ahead and read the first one.
Please take notice that the Town Board of the Town of Hyde Park will hold a public hearing on the 2018-2019 MS4 Permit Annual Report for the Town of Hyde Park, Dutchess County, New York, on Monday, May 20th, 2019 at 7:05 p.m. at the Hyde Park Town Hall, 4383 Albany Post Road, Hyde Park, New York. A copy of the proposed 2018-2019 MS4 Annual Report is available for review on the Town of Hyde Park website at www.hydeparkny.us or at the office of the Town Clerk during regular business hours. All persons interested in being heard on this report shall be given the opportunity to do so at said public hearing. By order of the Town Board of the Town of Hyde Park, dated May 6, 2019, Hyde Park, New York, Donna McGrogan, Town Clerk.
Okay, would anyone like to speak on this local law? Excuse me, it's not a local law, is it? It's just the MS4 report.
Yes,
Tad, would you like to speak on this? I know you gave us an update last month, or last week, so I don't know if you'd like to continue that update.
Not particularly. I'm glad that thank you for setting the public. Thank you for setting the public hearing, and having it on television is helpful for our public education and information distribution. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your hard work on all the actions you had to take to produce the report. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Ted.
Okay, so then we can go ahead and move on to the public hearing for local law number 2.
Do you want to close that one?
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Actually, you're right. So may I have a motion to close the hearing?
I make a motion.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the second public hearing is a local law to amend parking or standing in front of the Hyde Park Library. So would you mind please reading that
Sure.
that public notice also?
Please take notice that the Hyde Park Town Board has scheduled a public hearing on the adoption of Local Law E of 2019, entitled A Local Law to Amend Section 104-1, Parking or Standing Restricted of the Town of Hyde Park Code to restrict parking on Main Street. For May 20th, 2019 at 7:10 p.m. at the Hyde Park Town Hall, located at 4383 Albany Post Road, Hyde Park, New York. Any person desiring to be heard on the adoption of said local law shall be permitted to do so at the public hearing. A copy of the local law shall be available at the town clerk's office during regular business hours and shall be posted on the town's official website. By order of the Town Board of the Town of Hyde Park, dated May 6, 2019, Hyde Park, New York, Donna McGrogan, Town Clerk.
Okay, so again, we discussed this at our last meeting, and we're passing this, or voting on this local law in response to a request by the Hyde Park Library. They wanted to address a situation where people monopolize the parking for hours at a time, so they did ask us to take this action. So if anyone would like to speak on this local law, please, again, just join us at the podium and state your name and address. For the parking, okay. Okay, so may I have a motion to?
I just had
Oh,
just
sure.
a quick question on this.
Sure.
And I should have asked sooner, I'm sorry. So we're doing 1 hour. Is that going to be enough time if someone's in the library looking for a book or doing a research? How is that going to affect somebody that's in the library for maybe like an hour and a half? Do they have to come
They can-
back out and move the car?
No,
I mean,
just park one away, Kenny, if they're gonna be in there more than an hour, that's all. One down. They won't be as close to the front door, but they'll be
Oh, I
pretty
see.
close.
Because it's only 97 feet, right? Is that-
Right.
I got you, okay.
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure there was enough time for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Okay, anyone else have any questions of the audience? Okay, then may I have a motion to close that public
I
hearing?
make that motion.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
And just some housekeeping for a minute before we open the third. The resolution that we were going to add at the dais, did that get sent to Donna?
Yeah.
Did
Did you get it?
Did you get the last resolution from Barbara regarding? Okay,
Does he have it?
no.
No,
Oh,
Oh.
that's it. If you don't have it, I can go.
I might
print
have it, hold on, we
I
sent
have
it to both of
17.
you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so just before we continue with the third public hearing, I'd like to...
Contract.
Oh, okay. Does it look okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to ask for the board to add the following resolution to the agenda, and that is to authorize me to sign a filming agreement with Calling Grace Productions. They're going to be filming a HBO series in various parts of Dutchess County, including Hyde Park, and it's based on a book that I've read. I Know This Much Is True, which is a really good book.
Yeah.
So we kind of, thanks Warren for acting quickly, and we just have this to add to the agenda.
I make a motion to add
And-
Resolution 18?
And
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, so we have our third public hearing, and I'll ask the town clerk to read this as well.
Please take notice that the Hyde Park Town Board shall hold a public hearing on the adoption of Local Law F of 2019 entitled A Local Law Enacting a 6-Month Moratorium on the Processing and Approval of Applications for Solar Farms pursuant to the provisions of Chapters 130 and 130-8 of the Town Code at the Hyde Park Town Hall located at 4383 Albany Post Road, Hyde Park, New York, on May 20th, 2019 at 7:15 p.m. The purpose of the local law is to enact a 6-month moratorium on the processing and approval of applications for solar farms pursuant to Chapter 101 of the Town Code, while the Town Board considers amendments to the code provision. Any person desiring to be heard on the adoption of said local law shall be permitted to do so at the public hearing. Copies of this local law shall be available at the town clerk's office during regular business hours and shall be posted on the town's official board and website. By order of the Town Board of the Town of Hyde Park, dated May 6, 2019, Hyde Park, New York, Donna McGrogan, Town Clerk.
Okay, well, great. So just to give a brief history before we open the public hearing, that, Hyde Park was one of the first municipalities to pass a solar law. I think that was about 3 years ago that we passed it. And at that time, there really were not a lot of laws available to use as a prototype. So we did, work with NYSERDA and some various other resources to craft our own law. And since that time, a number of other municipalities have passed solar laws, and we like the refinements that they've made. And so we're taking this little breather time period to take a second look at our law. And, we've talked with our zoning administrator and the planning board chair about ways we can improve it. So this will give us the time period that we need to tighten up our law and to include some other changes. And in the interest of fairness, we wanted to make sure that we had a moratorium during that process. So that's the update. So I don't know if anyone would like to speak to this regarding this measure. And if so, just, join us at the podium. And if you would please say your name and your address and keep your comments to 3 minutes. We'd appreciate it.
My name's Henry Van Broekhoven. I live at 21 South Quaker Lane in Hyde Park. Lived there for a little over 18 years now. Before that, I lived on the Roosevelt Estate for 20 years, so I'm a longtime resident of Hyde Park. I can't applaud more the idea of having this moratorium because in my neighborhood, we were almost victimized by the current law in place and the process in place. And let me just very briefly, this is the one at Sign-On Farms. And when you think about these laws, you think about saving farms and you think about putting them in an open area, but an area that's separated from residential areas, that's treed and so on. This would have put it right in the middle of arguably the finest and highest tax-paying properties in that neighborhood, which would have just destroyed their value. They talked about screening that wouldn't have gotten the job done, and they talked about the glare, reducing the glare, when in fact, according to your own code, there should be no glare from these things. And having this industrial complex right in the middle of a historic agricultural area would have destroyed the whole nature of the neighborhood, would have ruined property values along and started a kind of downward spiral that you have near any poorly thought out commercial thing. Part of the problem is in process. Right now we seem to, in this country, have this mad rush, land rush, to create solar farms everywhere and every place without thinking about there are certain places where we should have them and probably a lot of places we shouldn't, and we're just madly going about the process as a mechanical process and not thinking about the consequences to the neighbors. We just think about the regulations for the solar contractor and the person who's leasing the property. And I would like to see the law be more reflective of that. In our process, thank God we were saved because Mike Sign-On bought the property from his sister, and he's going to continue it in the nature that it has always been since 1791 as a farm, and basically saved a piece of Hyde Park that'll hopefully, the way he's doing it, enhance tourism for the town. But that you can't depend on an angel in all these situations. We have to depend on the situation of the town, the regulations, and the process protecting us. And these people, the contractors, lied continually to the town. We caught, the engineer said she had spoken to somebody in the DEC about the environmental issues and gave a name. That day, my wife had spoken to that very person who said, no, they've never had any contact with that firm and don't understand why. They said that there's absolutely no rural viewshed involved, and yet that's considered a historic farm area. I don't know whether the town approved what went to the State Historic Preservation Officer. He had a no findings thing, but you know, I was the 106 compliance officer for the Park Service for 25 years, and you had an issue with historic setting, you had an issue with cultural landscape. We know from the original owner that that had been a farm, had been pasture land for 70 years. They characterized it as abandoned farmland. I took a picture of the horses grazing on the thing and sent it to the planning board. They accept these things, and you have to double check the process. And finally, on the anthropological thing, there was no anthropological evidence, and yet a woman who owned that farm used to say that she used to make money when it was dry going along the stream bed picking up arrowheads and so on. So there was clearly there should have been a better seeker than this write-off. And I know that the town is supposed to sign off on it. Many times the contractor prepares it and the town signs off on it. But here I saw in the rush to process, I'm seeing very, very poor quality control of that process. And I hope that the revisions to the law will improve that, because our lives are at stake. I mean, my biggest investment was where I live, and I went there because of that environment. And I pay a huge amount of taxes for land that I can't use because the way it was subdivided, we have large acreage tracts that we can't subdivide, we can't use for commercial operations. But we want that because we want to have that effect, and we willingly do it. And this would have taken all that away.
So thank you very much. We appreciate your comments.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Lorraine Busolato at 27 South Quaker Lane. So I think my biggest concern, no matter where in Hyde Park that they're considering putting a solar farm, is that the visual effect. Nobody should have to see that from their house. I mean, there's nothing stopping somebody, some big company, to come in, to buy a piece of property, to tear down a house, to put up a solar farm. You know, if the neighbors can see it, it's too much. And I understand that there is a facility, a solar farm behind us that's called Enclave, which is fine. I have nothing against the solar, but we shouldn't have to look at it. That's my biggest concern. And if we're having to see it, and like you were saying with the solar glare, if that's reflecting back at you, what kind of accidents are we gonna have with that? But I think it's more the visual. Nobody needs to see it, and especially with they did talk about noise. Nobody should have to hear that, you know? So that's just something we want you to consider when you're planning for other areas in the town, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on the solar law moratorium? Okay, well, thank you both for your comments, and we will be voting on those after our workshop. So I'd like to welcome Christina Borek. Well, actually, I should probably have a motion to close the public hearing. Sorry.
I'll make that
Keep
motion.
leaving that out.
Give me a second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Christina, come on and join us. Yeah, and welcome. We're always happy to see you and hear about all the good work that Rebuilding Duchess is doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Christina Borick. I'm the Executive Director of Rebuilding Together Dutchess County. And we are a nonprofit based here in Dutchess County. About 15 minutes? Is that
Oh, yeah,
about right?
sure.
Okay.
Yes, great,
Okay,
yes.
just want to make sure I stay within.
Yeah.
So this is what we deal with is a fairly large issue in our community and across the country. Over 2.6 million low-income homeowners live in inadequate and unhealthy homes. Here in Dutchess County, the income eligibility for our programs, about 40% of the households meet that income eligibility. And oftentimes with these issues, it's really related to deferred maintenance on a home that can really cause unhealthy environments, such as things that would cause asthma and or unsafe environments, especially for older adults. And the number around older adults is pretty staggering as well. 1.2 million individuals that are 65 years or older live in inadequate housing. So we are Rebuilding Together. We are the nation's largest nonprofit working to preserve affordable home ownership by providing no-cost home repairs and accessibility modifications to income-qualified homeowners. Our vision is safe homes and communities for everyone, and our mission is repairing homes, revitalizing communities, and rebuilding lives. We are a well-established community organization. We've been here in Dutchess County for 27 years. In that time, we've worked on over 700 projects within our community. As of last year, it was 776 to be exact. We engage volunteers and community supporters. In that time, we've engaged nearly 14,000 volunteers to help us finish those projects. And we look at the market value of the work that we do, taking into consideration volunteer labor, in-kind materials donations, $6.6 million invested back into our community. For our large-scale projects, the market value of those projects are on average about $20,000, to give you an example of the work that we do and the impact it can have for its homeowners. We are part of an affiliate network. There's about 130 Rebuilding Togethers across the country. We were founded as Christmas in April. Most of you may recognize that name. Same essential mission, doing the same work, but really we found that the work that was needed in our communities was much greater than what we could accomplish in a single month. And so we renamed the organization in 2001. And so really, I mentioned before, maintaining housing affordability. So what does that really mean? HUD standards are that if your housing costs more than 30% of the household income, then it's not affordable. And by that standard, about 35% of the Dutchess County households are struggling with affordability. They're struggling to pay their taxes, their mortgage, and really having to make difficult decisions around putting food on the table, paying for their home. When we're dealing with older adults, oftentimes issues around the cost of medicine. And so oftentimes deferred maintenance happens because there's just only so much when you're on a fixed income. So why do we look at repairs? Why is it important? I mentioned earlier about health and safety risks. We'll get into that a little bit more, really around that deferred maintenance. Preserving aging housing stock. Here in Dutchess County, 67% of our housing stock was built before 1979. So that means they already have known risks around health issues, namely mostly probably lead in the house, lead paint in the house, asbestos, faulty electrical wiring. Nearly 100% of the projects we deal with have some sort of electrical needs. Why else do we repair? I mentioned before, it allows seniors and individuals living with disabilities to be able to age in place and live independently and safely in their home. 9 out of 10 older adults hope to age in place, but nearly 70% of them state that they don't have the resources to make the modifications in their home in order for them to stay in their home. And 1 in 4 older adults falls on an annual basis. And most of those falls can end in either severe injury or death. Staggering statistic is 74 older adults die of a fall-related injury on each day. So that's a staggering statistic to me and probably to you. With some really minor modifications, we can prevent falls and tripping hazards in homes and allow people to live safely in their home. Each broken hip costs on average $37,000, but a grab bar costs about $37. And as I mentioned before, if you are served by Rebuilding Together, it's at no cost to you. Other things that we can easily do, a lot of older homes have older carpeting that are rippled in a tripping hazard, putting in laminate flooring. I mentioned grab bars. Handrails are also, handrails and aging steps in and out of the home are things that we see really often and things that are pretty easy for us to take on. One last thing around why repair, well, 2 last things actually. Energy consumption. Lower income households use about 17% of their income on energy within their home, compared to a moderate income household is about 4%. So again, making some really minor changes around just caulking and weather stripping can really make a big impact on, you're already dealing with limited income. So to have that not go towards energy consumption would be really helpful for the households that we typically deal with. Other things we can do is putting energy efficient windows and doors, adding insulation, and these things can really help reduce energy consumption by up to 35% in a home. And then lastly, really, our repair work stabilizes properties and their values. For each home that's lost to deferred maintenance in a community, it can affect the values of the entire neighborhood by 10%. And that number goes up with every home in that community that is lost to either foreclosure or disrepair. But the opposite is true as well. When you make repairs to a home, oftentimes it has a corollary effect in that neighborhood. Neighbors start to make repairs to their home as well, and what we'd really love to be able to do is really have a focus on a particular area. If there are homes in a neighborhood that could benefit, being able to take on multiple homes in a focused time frame can really have a greater impact in that neighborhood. And that's why we're really here today to talk about the availability of our programs in Hyde Park. you know, how a condition of our home really has a great impact on our health and our well-being. And so we take a systematic science-based approach to improving the homes. We have a checklist of 25 critical home repairs and accessibility modifications that are safety priorities for our homes that we look at for every rebuilding day project that we do. Those are our large-scale projects. And we really focus on 8 principles of safe and healthy housing. To give you an example of some of them, one of them is keep it dry, which you can imagine is anything around keeping moisture away from the home. And moisture can really cause some serious health issues. With moisture often comes mold that can cause asthma. Anyone with breathing issues can have an issue in their home just by a leaky pipe that is left unaddressed for a number of years. But we look at roof repairs, flashing, gutter repairs, downspouts, grading away from the home to make sure that, you know, oftentimes, especially here in Hyde Park, I'm a resident of Hyde Park, our basements flood, right? So really doing some modifications to help prevent that moisture in the home can really make a huge difference, especially with if you have children in the home that have asthma. Keep it contaminant free. That's another one that we don't ever think about, but critters can also be a trigger for asthma in individuals that have breathing problems, so that's something that we look for. But also, I mentioned before, lead and certainly asbestos are things that we look for in a home to make sure that those contaminants are removed. Over 1 million low-income households with children under the age of 6 have significant lead hazards, and with our aging housing stock, there's no doubt that we have those issues within our community. And then lastly, one other thing that we look at is keep it safe. And that can be a number of things, the things that we've talked about tonight around modifications for older adults or individuals with disabilities. But it can also mean making sure that there's working smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors and fire extinguishers within a home, that you can get safely in and out of your home. We mentioned toilets, no tripping hazards, but being able to use the toilet and get in and out of the tub safely. And electrical hazards certainly are things that we look for as well. But also, do your doors lock? Do your windows lock? If you have old doors and windows, oftentimes the locks don't work. And so we are, as I mentioned, a nonprofit that does last year we did about 125 of our safe and healthy projects around fire preparedness. And we did about 20 of our large-scale projects. Our large-scale projects, as I mentioned before, market value usually about $20,000. We do most of those on our rebuilding days, which occur in April and October. We'll do multiple projects in a single day. This past April, on the 27th, we did 6 projects around the county. We're going to do 2 more June 1st, just because of the timing. It didn't work out for April. And then again, in the fall, we typically do 5 to 10 projects in a single day as well, engaging about 150 to 200 volunteers on those days. And then we do some of those other large-scale projects throughout the summer. Oftentimes, if they're really large projects, we'll do them throughout the summer. And then our small-scale program is made up of handyman type services and that home safety and fire prevention. So, you know, dealing with those 5 things that are really important to make a home safe: the smoke and carbon monoxide alarm, the fire extinguisher, an exterior light, and a reflective house number is what we start with those small scale projects, and then we may do other things depending on, you know, accessibility modifications. We also do have a Community Strong program. This is our nonprofit repair program, and we'll also work in community spaces. We'd love to be able to do, as I mentioned before, the focused home repair projects in a community, and then maybe also work on a community park or a community center that the individuals that live in that community utilize, so that we really can have a revitalization effect on the entire community. Oftentimes our nonprofit partners are struggling with deferred maintenance on their buildings, much like our homeowners, because they want to put all of their vital resources into their programming rather than maintaining their home. And so that was something we launched a couple of years ago, and we're happy to be able to do that for our community. So, so for our homeowner eligibility, just to give you a sense of who qualifies for our programs, and then I'll finish up and allow you to ask any questions. So we look at the household income. We use HUD numbers. It's 80% of the average median income. The HUD numbers just came out for 2019. To give you a sense, it's really based on the number of people that live in the home. For a family of two, this year's max income is $60,400. That number goes up with every additional individual within the home. If you have questions about that or think that you may be eligible, you can certainly call our office at 454-7310. Our application will be released actually this week. We'll be sending some to the town hall, so they'll be here. You often put them on link on your website as well, so we would love for you to be able to do that again. We work with owner-occupied residents, so you must own your home and live in your home. We only serve Dutchess County, so it has to be a Dutchess County resident. And then we ask that your mortgage and your taxes are up to date and that you have homeowners insurance. So as I mentioned, that application will be available by the end of this month, hopefully the end of this week. We made some modifications to it to make it a little bit easier for people to fill it out, so we'd love your feedback on that as well. Other ways that you can help other than just spreading the word is you know, if you know of skilled tradespeople in the community that may want to give back, I mention every time, Don Veith is a wonderful supporter of ours. Veith Electric does all of the electric work on all of our projects and does it in kind for the materials and the services. So individuals like that or organizations like that that can help us really stretch our dollar helps us serve more people. So questions?
It's just more of a statement, but I just really applaud the work you're doing. I've been to a number of your rebuilding days, and it's just amazing what you accomplish in one day, and
Thank you.
all the volunteers, and it's just such a nice resource for our community. And I do encourage anyone who thinks they might qualify to reach out to Christina. We'll put the phone number up on the website and the application. And does the application detail other financial information, or what do people have to provide?
Right. With the initial application, we ask you to provide proof of income only with the application, and then if we qualify a homeowner based on income and we can check with Parcel Access that they own and reside in their home. Then when we come for our preview, when we come into the home, we'll ask them to provide that other stuff like proof of mortgage, things like that.
And is there a minimum or maximum threshold for assets, like if they have money in the bank?
Not for our eligibility. Some of the grants that we get, that's a qualifier, but it's not an eligibility requirement for us. And we are looking to do more of those handyman type small scale projects this year. We're actually working on a partnership with the Office for the Aging for their caseworkers to refer individuals to us when they're in the home and really work with the homeowners to help them with the application. And so we know that's kind of the critical need with allowing, especially with older adults, to be able to stay in their homes. So we're really looking to them to help us with that, and as I mentioned, really trying to make it easier for people to apply.
And I seem to recall that you had some special programs for veterans.
We give preference to veterans in our selection process, and we do have a national sponsor through Sears. As I mentioned before, there's 130 affiliates across the country, and Sears does collect donations at the point of sale in their stores and then makes that funding available the next year through a competitive grant process. And so that grant for this year hasn't been announced yet, but we do have other funding sources that also prefer to fund veteran projects. And so we're always looking to hear. And again, facilities that serve veterans as well, so VFW halls and things like that, that may need repairs or modifications would be eligible for our Community Strong program as well.
So for the Community Strong program, is it required that they serve low-income people?
It is not required.
Okay.
We prefer to work with nonprofits that own their building. We will make an exception. I would have to go to our executive committee for review. And again, we are looking to work with even municipalities around public parks and public spaces, really around revitalization, cleanups, things like that. We are really good at planning and recruiting volunteers, and so we really want to be able to use that to the betterment of our community.
Well, you definitely are. We appreciate the good work.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I think there was a stipulation that when you do a house, the people can't sell the house. They have to stay in that house for X number of months, or I don't know what it is.
We ask that homeowners stay in their home for at least 2 years after we serve them. Some funding sources require a longer time period. All of them would be, if you leave or sell the home before that time period, there would be a payback.
Okay.
And it's often, if it's more than 2 years, there's a lien put on the home, and that payback would occur at the sale of the home. Sometimes if your family member's taking that over, they can remain in the home and not have to pay that back.
All right.
And for the 2 year, across the board, it's 2 years. Certainly if something happens, especially when we're dealing with older adults, if they have to go into a nursing home or God forbid they pass away, that does not pass along. That requirement doesn't pass along to their heirs.
Great.
Is there an age requirement?
There is not an age requirement. We tend to serve a lot of older adults because they own their home oftentimes, and they are on a fixed income and oftentimes meet our income eligibility, but it's not a requirement. We serve families with children in the homes. Actually, this April, 3 out of the 6 projects that we serve had school-age children in the home.
That's great.
Some of them had great-grandparents raising those children, but yes.
But that's all right.
Yep.
Ken, did you have?
No,
Yeah.
like you, I've been to several, and it's just an amazing day, and
Thank you.
you can really see the fruit of the labor, and it's just, it's a great program, so thank you
Thank
for
you.
all you do.
So your number is 454-7130?
7310.
7310.
And the
Okay.
application will be released this month, and it'll be open through October
Okay.
for the large-scale projects. The small-scale stuff we take throughout the year. But it takes us a while to plan those larger-scale projects, so
Sure.
we have a cutoff, yeah.
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much for
Okay.
having
Oh,
me. I really
Christina,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
always.
You know, we love doing projects here in Hyde Park, and things like this really help get the word out.
Yes,
so,
and
so
we're
we greatly
happy,
appreciate it.
absolutely happy to help, and we'll put it up on our website.
One other question, when you do a major repair, I know we did one in Hyde Park
Yep.
last year.
Yes, for the World War II veterans.
Yeah, which was great. Do you have to go through the process of getting a building permit?
We do. We oftentimes will, if we feel that the work we're doing is going to trigger a building permit, we'll send that to the municipality's building inspector to ask them if we have to pull any permits. So we do that on a regular basis. If we're hiring a contractor, we put that in the contract that they're
And if that happens in
required.
Hyde Park, would we waive the?
If we're asked to.
Right, I mean-
Yeah.
You have in the past.
Yeah,
All right, good, I want to make sure,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's a.
Most municipalities do.
Yeah, I just want to make, that's where I was going with that.
No, we greatly appreciate that,
Yeah.
because then again, it does help us,
Yeah,
stretch the
makes
dollar.
them, yes, that's
Yeah.
what we're
Right.
eager to do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Okay,
Terrific.
well, always so nice to see you, Christina.
Thank you for
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
and if anyone ever needs assistance, we'd be happy to help them at Town Hall, too. Fill out the applications. Okay, good night.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Okay. So, Neil? you want-
Resolutions?
Yeah,
Oh, already?
and the first two are going to need a roll call, and I'm just
Okay.
telling you so you remind me.
Excellent. Resolution 520-1 of 2019, resolution adopting local law number E of the year 2019 entitled "A Local Law to Amend 104-1 Parking or Standing Restricted of the Town of Hyde Park Town Code to restrict parking on Main Street in the Town of Hyde Park."
I second.
And the roll call, please.
Councilman Krupnik.
Aye.
Councilman Ray.
Aye.
Councilman Schneider.
Aye.
And Supervisor Rohr.
Aye.
Okay. Resolution 520-2 of 2019, resolution adopting local law of 2019, local law F of 2019, enacting a 6-month moratorium on the processing and approval of applications for solar farms pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 130 and 130-8 of the Town Code.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Councilman Krupnik.
Aye.
Councilman Ray.
Aye.
Councilman Schneider.
Aye.
And Supervisor Rohr.
Aye.
Resolution 520-3 of 2019, resolution acknowledging the resignation of Town of Hyde Park Police Officer Tiffany McLaughlin.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
We wish Tiffany the best.
Resolution 520-4 of 2019, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Supervisor to execute nunc-pro-tunc stormwater management facility inspection and maintenance easement agreement with Salt Point Farms LLC.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye. Resolution 520-5 of 2019, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Supervisor to execute a sidewalk easement agreement and stormwater management facility inspection and maintenance easement agreement, excuse me, I don't know how to pronounce this, Asa Hashusha International Company Ltd. It's a,
That's pretty good, Dave.
That's
It was really
Japanese.
close.
Better than I can do.
It's-
I tried it a few times, but I forgot how to say it.
That's how his shoes up.
The Japanese company.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 520-6 of 2019, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to close town offices on Tuesday, June 18th, 2019, to the public in order to conduct public records inventory for 2019.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 520-7 of 2019, resolution authorizing entrance onto the properties located at 4335 Albany Post Road, Hyde Park, and 4357 and 4359 Albany Post Road, Hyde Park, to bring the property into compliance with the standards of Chapter 85-5B of the Town Code, and to assess the cost of such action against the property as a lien and charge on the same.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye. Resolution 520-8 of 2019, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve town-owned surplus police vehicles be sold at public auction via absolute auctions.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 520-9 of 2019, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve the purchase of a used replacement vehicle for the Town of Hyde Park Police Department fleet.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 520-10 of 2019, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to waive all fees for the Statsburg Library relating to the construction of a gazebo and shed on library grounds.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye. Resolution 520-11 of 2019, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation 2018-2019 MS4 per annual report.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 520-12 of 2019, resolution authorizing the Hyde Park Justice Court Clerk Jessica Edwards to attend the New York State Association of Magistrates Court Clerk 2019 Annual Conference, Sunday, September 29th, 2019, to Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019, in Syracuse, New York.
And the second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
And now we've discovered the problem with using a tab.
What happened?
I had lost my place on it.
You're out of the loop.
Ken, which resolution
You're
did
on
you just
number
read?
13.
You're on 13.
Thank you.
Resolution 520-13 of 2019, resolution acknowledging the resignation of Town of Hyde Park Justice Clerk Tessa Stokes.
And-
Second.
And we wish Tessa the best in her new position, and all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 520-14 of 2019, resolution acknowledging the retirement of Town of Hyde Park Court Clerk Michelle Ryder Brandt.
Second.
And again, we wish Michelle the best, and all in favor?
Aye. Resolution 520-15 of 2019, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to appoint Court Clerk Emily Foss, Justice Clerk Sarah Jensen for the Town of Hyde Park Justice Court.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 520-16 of 2018, resolution authorizing Town of Hyde Park Town Board to appoint seasonal laborer William Homa for the Town of Hyde Park Recreation Department.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 520-17 of 2019, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Clerk to solicit bids for the Hyde Park Recreation Dinsmore Park Improvement Project.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then we had the resolution that was added, number 18, for filming in Hyde Park for the HBO
Oh,
series.
right, resolution authorizing the town supervisor to sign filming agreement with Calling Grace Productions, LLC. And so, may I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I would like to go into an executive session, so, to discuss a personnel issue. So may I have a motion to enter executive
I
session?
make that motion.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye. So, they don't have to,
I won't.
Okay, then.
they won't have to stay.
Well, no one has
You're
to
not
stay,
gonna do any
yes.
bit- you're not gonna-
No, there won't be any more business
Right.
tonight, just, yeah. Thank you, everyone. Yep.
Thanks for coming.
See you tomorrow. Sorry, Donna, we'll try not to.
No, no.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's right.
There's no roosters tonight.
there's
no roosters
All right.
All right.
I make
May
a
have
motion to adjourn.
And a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
I make, see ya.
When would you do
Oh.
that too
Bye,
fast?
Tony, thank you.
No decisions.
Oh, no decisions were made.
Look at that.
Okay, and it's 8.
So we've had a